does this mean karmically? Well, let me start on the other side of it. What does it mean? She has a short time left. The challenge with Buddhism, especially if you're new, is often we think that, and as you know, and this answer is really for everybody, we often think that Buddhism is going to fix things or make things better. And it's not. To me, this practice is making things, helping us cut through all the lenses and filters that we've built up and seeing things as they are. And the truth is, regardless of what this person has done in the past, good, bad, or otherwise, because the person's probably done some good in their life, they've probably done some bad in their life, just like everybody in this room. And now they've been told they have a short time left, right? We all may have a short time left. We don't know. She didn't know, right? I think if we try to get wrapped up in what does it mean karmically, it's very hard for us to not default to she doesn't deserve this. We're so, I feel, especially in Western culture, ingrained to think that karma is about what they deserve or what we deserve, right? Her life led her to a situation where she now has a very short time to live. That has nothing to do with blame or fault or deserving. It is her present situation. And that's always tough for the individual. I can't relate to anything like that. I don't know. But it's often more challenging for those around her, the family and friends that have to watch her go through this, have to try to be strong for her. And then if and when that time comes that she passes, then we sit and we hold this, right? And I try to look at situations like this as reminders to all of us of how precious our life is. We don't know when our time is up. You know, Dogen would say practice as if your hair is on fire, meaning don't sit around waiting to try to be a kind, compassionate person. Do it now. Don't sit around dreaming and wondering what your whole life could be and should be and want to be. Do it now. There's an old teacher who used to do a class called A Year to Live. And the idea was if you had a year to live, how differently would you live your life? And for most people, it would be drastically different, right? And for this individual, she has a short time left, but she's here today, right? So today, she can make the most of today. If she wakes up tomorrow, then tomorrow can be the day that she makes the most of that day. And each moment, each day, we're making the most of that moment. Because none of us know when our time is up. It's not helpful. I know you weren't looking for that. It's not like, okay, thanks, now I feel better. No, it's the cold, harsh reality that with birth comes death. The Buddha taught very clearly we're guaranteed with birth, we're guaranteed to age, we're guaranteed to get sick, and we are guaranteed to die. None of us can escape that. And often when we look at the fear of death, the teachings that I always received were not so much about the fear of death, but the fear to actually be alive, to live. So, yeah.
A very different question than yours. I'm so sorry. I'd love to get your take on anticipation and striving. I know that I am a striver, and so I'm working on a project and super excited about it, launching it, trying not to get attached to an outcome, trying to stay in the middle path. But what I'm finding is it's made me so tentative that I think my energy isn't at its fullest, and it could be actually putting the project in jeopardy. So I'm curious about your take on striving and kind of drive energetically, and how to kind of balance that.
Mm-hmm. I think you asked the same question 6 years ago.
Probably. And then 5, and then 4.
And then 5, and then 4, and then 3. And what I love about your questions when they periodically appear, a couple times a year, is that we're very good at putting words in our head and justifying things to ourselves. I'm starting with this, and then I'll maybe go back and give you a more pleasant, helpful answer, right? But you've known me long enough to know that I'm not here to give pleasant answers. That's the class down the street. The challenge is, well, let me go back. Let me back up a minute. There's this idea in teaching in Buddhism that craving and desire is the cause of suffering, right? To put it into kind of that context. And it's also very common to understand and misunderstood that craving and desire is always bad or wrong, right? The desire to suffer less is a healthy desire. The craving to help others is a healthy craving. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
But in that process, if we are suffering because we want the outcome to happen immediately, then we're torturing ourselves through it. Did you drive here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we're done here in a little while, you were going to go back to your car, right? Do you know your car is still there?
I like to think so.
You'd like to think so, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Where'd you park? In the parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it got towed.
Yeah.
You're actually fine there, don't worry. Right? But do you see how quickly all of a sudden the stomach drops, like, oh no, maybe my car's not there anymore. Right? Maybe you got towed, maybe you got a ticket, maybe you didn't turn your wheels on the curb, who knows? But in order to get home today to do whatever else you're working on, you know how many, like, thousands of things have to happen before you even get to your car? We have to finish up here unless you want to leave early, right? You have to get up, you have to straighten the cushion back, you have to look around, make sure nobody left trash in the room. These are all just hints for everybody, right? You have to be careful trekking out that you don't trip over any shoes that aren't on the shoe rack. You know, you have to maybe go to the restroom, right? You have to maybe say hello to some people. You have to do 1,000 things probably, not to mention all the things you're going to think before you even get to, like, 100 yards away. Have the goal and the objective to get in your car and go home. But until you focus very clearly on every single thing up to that point, that's not going to happen. But in all likelihood, you'll probably get to your car and you'll probably go home. So all the goals and dreams you have, they can all happen, but they can only happen one moment at a time. And if we skip these moments worried about 3 years down the road, and it's also important to understand what's the intention behind what we're driven by, right? Livelihood, what is the reason we're doing things? What is the reason we work so hard? Getting into this Buddhist practice, I work harder than I did when I actually worked. 1,000 times harder. But look at the intention, look at the motivation, look at what's behind it. Why are you doing it? And then it also ties into not being attached to the outcome. Because you don't even know if you're going to get your car, but you're already worried about how your project's going to turn out a year from now. Get your car first. That's going to take a lot of effort. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll ask again next year.
Thanks. I can see you in the back of the booth for you, sitting on that chair on the left side, asking the same question. Still struggling with the same stuff, trying to build a career, trying to figure out what you want to do. I don't even know what you're doing. Trying to build a career, trying to figure out what you want to do, trying to figure out the right intention behind it. Why am I doing it? What's the motivation? How's it going to sustain? Like, all these questions. And most importantly is, you don't even know if you'll live long enough to get to your car. That's the truth. Chances are you probably will. Better end soon. Other questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with?
So to follow up, you said most people it came down to people have a fear of to be aligned. Can you say more on that?
Can I say more about that?
Mm-hmm.
I think that anytime the question around death comes up, and conversations I've had and being in communities like this for a long time, people often live what I've found with this afraid of dying. And which is funny because we're all going to do it, right? And often we live our lives in so much fear, not even just of death, but of everything. Afraid of this person, afraid of that person, afraid of this city, afraid of that car, afraid of that everything. Every law, every rule, every political leader, we're in constant fear of everything and everyone. And that fear locks us up and keeps us potentially from just living joyfully. To be fearless. You know, Chogyam Trungpa was a great Buddhist teacher. I'm not saying everything he lived and did was great, but I think his teachings were brilliant, and he would talk about groundlessness. And he would say the bad kind of jumped off a cliff. The good news is there's no ground to fall on. And we can go through our own head and list off all the fears that are there. It would probably be a pretty long list. And those fears, you know, the Heart Sutra talks about having no obstructions in the mind. The mind stops us from doing often what we truly love and want to do because we're so wrapped up in constructs and ideas of what everybody else thinks and wants us to do. Afraid to be ourselves, afraid to be honest with who you are, afraid to wake up and say, this is who I am, this is how I live, this is what I want to do, afraid, trying to do things for others because that's what they expect. Really hard. What else? Yeah.
How can we be fearless?
What's that?
How can we be fearless?
How can we be fearless? Starts with taking off the blues hat. You know? Would you be afraid to be a Blackhawks fan? You know, fear, I think that there's an acronym I heard years ago, and fear is, for fear, it was false evidence appearing real. And I think the idea of how to become fearless starts with looking at why am I so afraid and what am I afraid of? And the essence of this practice is cutting through this ego and the sense of self and pride that we spend so much time building up. It doesn't mean your ego goes away, but you learn to really act on the side of the ego that brings good things into the world. But if we look at what we're afraid of, I think that's where you start. And again, that answer is different for everybody in this room. You know, often people ask, how do I kind of attain ultimate wisdom? And I say, well, look at, you know, the ignorance. How do I attain ultimate compassion? Well, look at the anger. How do I become fearless? Well, look at the fears and see what's stopping you. And it's very often tied in towards some expectation that we have of ourselves. I mean, how many of you expect things from yourself? Right? How many of you have others that expect things from you? And how many of you can just cut through all of that and just be? I don't see any hands. There's your fear. Constantly trying to appease and respond to others' demands and wants. You know? But it's not easy. And it takes patience. I mean, it only took you 15 years to get here, so you're headed in the right direction, Mr. Strandi. Yeah.
You said at one point that Buddhism doesn't necessarily make your life better, it just makes it what it is.
Yeah.
And I disagree because I have someone very, very close in my life who my daughter suffers from hyper anxiety problems. And I ached, laid awake in bed at night crying, taking her to different people, trying to get different medications, just anything so she could just live life without being afraid at every moment. When I came to Buddhism and I realized that that's her path and I can't change her path. I can bring her my ideas. I can show her that there are ways to think and she can hear me. I can't do anything about it. What it's done for and know that her anxiety disorder is her path. And what she does with her path is what it is. She has a heart of gold. She does things that are just amazing, and she's taught me so much. But the pain that I have lived through because of her pain stopped me at one point and made me a really angry person. And you were saying something about, do people do things intentionally? Everyone I know at my age has grandchildren and their children are married, and everyone says, I'm so sorry that you don't, that your daughter. I'm like, hey, she's great. She's fine. She's who she is. This is her life. Nothing I can do about it. And the forgiveness of them, because maybe their intention is really just caring about me. I think so, but okay.
Yeah, and yes, the beauty of what you just said, and just to clarify for those, I've known you for years, for those who maybe are new or maybe hearing this for the first time, the beauty of what you just said is Buddhism didn't do that. Cynthia did that. Buddhism didn't make you angry. Buddhism didn't make you compassionate. Buddhism didn't make you forgive. You did that. You help yourself and you help your daughter. Buddhism was a thing taught by somebody 2,500 years ago. And again, this is for everybody, really. And he died. And you have the teachings that live in books and then become alive in the way we act. But when they become alive in the way we act, it's not about, I am this way because I'm Buddhist. I am this way because this is how I act. It doesn't matter if I am Christian, if I am Catholic, if I am Jewish, which I am, if I'm Muslim, if I'm pagan, it doesn't matter. This is how I am, and this is what I do. And you used what you learned through Buddhism and brought that into your life. But the clarification and kind of distinguishing that is more for everybody else who might be new to Buddhism, thinking that Buddhism is going to be the thing that fixes you. The only thing that's going to fix you is you. And I heard you even in the way you explained it. I good, I angry, I angry, I angry. That's what I heard you say. You did it. So congratulations. Yeah. You attached Buddhist, you. All right, so we're going to focus on that. Go ahead, Lass. Yeah.
No, while you were speaking, it reminded me of something that someone said to me once. So many of the burdens we have are not ours to carry.
Yeah, what she said, for those who didn't hear it, was that so many of the burdens we have are not ours to carry. So.
And when you realize that.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll join palms as we close. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Maurice's friend during her time of suffering and her family and friends who suffer at this time. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering.